Good morning. Great to have your company. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. I'm Janie Seal. To our top stories, and the first night of a 14-day youth curfew in Alice Springs has just lifted after a wave of violence forced the Northern Territory government to declare an emergency situation. Let's go live now to Matt Cunningham, who joins us live from Alice Springs. Good morning to you, Matt. What was the situation like last night?
Well, quieter than usual, certainly quieter than I've seen it on previous occasions that I've driven around the streets of Alice Springs at night. In fact, in January, I was here and spent a night with Darren Clark driving the streets of Alice Springs, and there were plenty of kids out unsupervised on that particular occasion, probably dozens of them. Not the case last night. I did see a couple of kids around, but really it was pretty quiet. The streets were basically empty. We've seen that curfew lift about an hour or so ago, Janie. Of course, it followed those dramatic scenes here on Tuesday afternoon, right where I'm standing. It was the Todd Tavern where we saw the worst of that violence on Tuesday, a mob of about 70 people gathering outside this hotel, and some of them trying to smash their way in, kicking the doors, smashing the glass, throwing bricks and stones at the windows. And there were also cars nearby that were badly vandalised. The situation escalated over the next couple of hours. We're told it was in relation to payback. There were members of the community of Utopia who'd come in to Alice Springs, and then they had gone, some of them on that rampage through the streets of the CBD. It ended up at the Hidden Valley Town Camp, where there was a disturbance involving about 150 people. But some people here in Alice Springs say the situation on Tuesday night could have been even worse.
I've seen some horrible things. Yesterday was truly terrifying that was going on when you've got a whole town under siege. If the rain hadn't come last night, Chris, and they're on their way back into the CBD, they may well have burnt the town down last night, and I'm not exaggerating.
The Northern Territory government was under great pressure to act yesterday, and that is exactly what it did. The Chief Minister, Eva Lawler, called a press conference where she announced an emergency situation for Alice Springs and a 14-day youth curfew.
The scenes in Alice Springs yesterday were horrific, unacceptable, and we never want to see anything like that again in the Northern Territory.
We've heard plenty of reaction already to the Northern Territory government's decision. Most people are welcoming this move, Janie, at least in the short term.
What's been going on out there is absolutely unacceptable. People deserve to be safe, and I really hope that's what this curfew will bring about.
This is really a short-term band-aid solution. The government needs to actually seriously consider once and for all what the long-term looks like, and also so does the federal government, the Prime Minister.
The other thing the Northern Territory government announced yesterday, Janie, was that another 58 police officers would be sent to Alice Springs to help deal with the situation here. But that does mean that they'll have to be taken from other areas, principally from Darwin and Palmerston. Now, we have seen an increase in crime in those areas as well. In fact, I'm told that last night a bottle shop in the Darwin suburb of Karama was held up by a group of youths wielding a machete. So it really is a case of shuffling the deck chairs in some ways. There had been calls for the Australian Federal Police to be brought in to offer assistance to the Northern Territory, but that was a proposal that was rejected by the Northern Territory's Police Commissioner, Michael Murphy.
All right, Matt Cunningham, very interesting. And just hearing those, comments about the curfew being certainly a positive thing, but potentially a sugar hit, would you say? And we just heard Jacinta Price. I heard a bit of what she had to say in terms of we need to look at the long term. What do you think from where you are? You've been reporting on this for a very long time. What more needs to be done?
Oh, well, that's the $6 million question, isn't it? I mean, how do you undo 40, 50 years of failed government policy that's left us in the situation we're in now? I think what we're seeing is a short-term solution with this youth curfew, but I think Territorians will welcome some short-term solutions. The Northern Territory government's spoken a lot about its long-term plan for generational change, how to get kids into school, how to make sure that those kids go through a school system and then end up in a real and meaningful job. That has been the number one priority of Eva Lawler since she took over as Chief Minister last December. She's made no secret about that, Janie. But in the meantime, Territorians also want and I think deserve to feel safe in their homes and in their communities. And I think there need to be measures in place to ensure that happens in the short term.
Absolutely. Well said, Matt Cunningham. Thank you very much. Let's join us now. Joining me live is criminal expert Terry Goldsworthy. Terry, just hearing from Matt there, so much needs to be done, and it's a very ongoing situation, as we well know. But getting back to that curfew, what do you make of this curfew? Do you think it's a good thing? We're hearing that many people are welcoming it. What is your opinion on it?
Yeah, good morning. Look, I looked at curfews for youth offenders back in 2018. The LNP in the election that took place then was proposing the same thing up in Townsville. And when you look at the studies done, etc., they're quite divisive. Some say they do reduce crime. There seem to be more that suggest they have no great impact in crime. And what seemed to come out of it was that if you have a generalised curfew in a certain area, it won't be overly effective in reducing crime. We saw that in Perth in 2006. They introduced a curfew over there and crime really didn't increase. You seem to be better off having a targeted curfew where you're targeting specific offenders and dealing with them as the ones who are causing the problem you have. But I guess if you look at that footage at Alice Springs there, you're looking at very large numbers of potential offenders. So that could be the problem they're facing there.
What are your thoughts on potentially getting the federal police to the Alice Springs region?
Look, it has some merit. I mean, certainly I don't think the ADF is suited for policing at all, so I wouldn't be proposing that. But I just wonder how long the Northern Territory Police can surge in 60 officers. How long will they remain there? I mean, it's like you're plugging a hole to stop the water coming in. And once you remove the plug, the water's going to come back in. So as Matt, your former reporter there, said, there needs to be long-term solutions. So I think the federal police would be useful in terms of just bodies on the ground, if nothing else. There'd have to be some arrangements there, I guess, to make them special constables to have some kind of enforcement powers. But certainly it's got merit. It seems to be, from the footage we saw yesterday, that it was just anarchy and the rule of law had broken down, and community safety must be restored. And, you need to have safe streets that people can actually walk down during the middle of the day. It's just absurd that you can't do that.
We're also reporting across the country. We've had Kenny Heatley in Sydney, the regional Queensland have got the police units tackling crime there. There are reviews being conducted. There are crime issues everywhere. On a general note, I know it's a multi-pronged approach that we have to do, but what are some more short, medium and long-term solutions in your opinion?
Well, certainly you've got pre-crime, the crime and post-crime. And pre-crime, we now know some data came out recently in Queensland that shows the causal factors of youth offenders. So in Queensland in 2003, 70% of youth offenders reoffended within 12 months. That's problematic. The recidivism rate is quite serious. In terms of the reasons or the reasons behind why they're offending, 80% have used at least one substance, 40% have used amphetamine, 50% are not engaged in education, training, etc. There's high levels of DV experienced in the house. Those things need to be addressed pre-crime. If you can get to them and fix them, the child most likely won't enter into a crime stage. Once they're committing the crime, community safety must be paramount. You need to ensure the community is safe. We've seen the acting commissioner up here say that they're now going to have fly-in, fly-out police to target the hotspots. That's something I've been calling for 18 months. I don't know why it's taken so long to realise that that's a strategy that may be effective in dealing with these regional areas. And then I guess at the end of that, the post-crime, we've seen the government in Queensland announce that a youth detention centre should come online at the end of this year, an extra one, where they'll be able to have 70 beds for youth offenders. And, You know, we've seen our serious repeat offenders in Queensland last week. Data released in Parliament showed that we had 482, and that's up about 7% from the figure we had in June last year. So those serious repeat offenders under the current regimes may need to do some time in jail, but while they're in there, they need to be exposed to rehabilitation plans that will reduce recidivism. That's the trick, getting all those things working together.
Yes, a lot to be done, and hopefully a lot more will be done very, very quickly. Dr. Terry Goldsworthy, always great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jane.
And we do have